Hi everyone, it's Kristie here from KP Creatives with another video for Two Scrapbook Friends. Today we're going to be making a greeting for somebody who has a winter birthday, or maybe someone who is celebrating something wintry. If they've just taken new ski lessons or skating lessons or something like that, this would be a great card project if you have people like that in your life. So here's the list of supplies we are going to be using today. We have a lot going on, so I've done a lot of the work off camera, and I really want to concentrate on how we're putting this card together because we are using a lot of different products. So I thought this might be a fun way to show you how certain things can go together that you might not think would go together in your crafty collection. So I'll pop this up again at the end of the video so you can take a screenshot if you would like. The first thing we're going to be using today is this this stencil and die set from Photoplay, and it is called Mittens. So you can see there are two mitten die cuts as well as the string, and then you have this great stencil where you can stencil on different patterns on your mittens or different winter elements, snowflakes, the trees, some hearts and stars as well. So lots of different options that you could use to decorate the mittens or for something entirely different on your card if you were just making a winter themed card. So that's one element that we are going to be using. We're also going to be using from Photoplay in their Say It With Stamps series, the party set. So just let me get these mitten pieces out of the way, and I'll show you this party set. This is a great all-purpose set to have in your collection. What I love about the Photoplay Say It With Stamps collections is they come with a focal point word that has the word and shadow die and all of these great sentiments that you can use for all different kinds of celebrations. So these are really great sets to have. You can use them for many different things. Another piece that we're going to be using today is this awesome 3D embossing folder from Tim Holtz. This is called Cobblestone, and I had never used one of Tim Holtz 3D embossing folders before. It is absolutely fantastic. So you'll get to see what that results in as well. So let's get rolling and showing some of the elements that are going to be putting this card together. I'm going to start with the 3D embossing folder. So they're very popular right now, and they're great because you get incredible dimension and detail on the piece of paper that you run through your die cut machine. I used this piece of Cherry Kisses cardstock. This is from the Stamp Market, and look at that amazing detail that you can get. Many different layers that it creates with that 3D embossing. I'm going to show you the debossed side as well, which you could also use on your project. Just absolutely fantastic detail. So really, I think there's going to be a lot of cool things you can do with these embossing folders. I have a Big Shot machine, and I used the embossing folder setting, a cutting plate underneath, and that was it. It ran through my machine, and this was the result that I got. So you might have to play around a little bit depending on what die cutting machine you have on the embossing settings, just to make sure you're getting the right sandwich as you work through it. But I really liked this. I thought it was an awesome result. So from the Photoplay Say It With Stamps party set, I'll just bring that in so you can see that again. I die cut the word party and the shadow out of that Cherry Kisses cardstock, as well as some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in the 80 pound. And I die cut it a few times so you can see I've got two layers of the shadow, one that I offset, so the Cherry Kisses is offset with the white, and then I also die cut a couple more of the word. There's 3 in total, so we just get a little bit of dimension on that party word die that just makes it stand out a little bit more on our finished card project. So again, great all-purpose sets from the Say It With Stamps series to have in your collection. So let's talk about the mittens. So the mittens, again, this stencil and die set is from Photoplay. I thought it was so cute when I saw it first come out. What a great way to send winter greetings. My plan was to use it in some holiday cards, but I actually didn't get around to that. And sorry, one thing I forgot to show you from the party stamp set was I stamped in Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink what we have here is a reason to, and I'll couple that with the party word die on our finished project. So again, that's the Cherry Kisses with the Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink. It is a great ink to use to stamp sentiments. And because it's a pigment ink, it stays wet a little bit longer. So you could actually heat emboss over top of it. I didn't heat emboss on this project, but that's certainly an option. So when you are stamping with the pigment ink, you just want to make sure you give it enough time to dry before you cut your sentiment out, because it does stay wet a little bit longer than dye ink. So just keep that in mind when you're working with pigment inks, but it's a great one and it works awesome. So I played around quite a bit with these mittens. I did a couple that I stenciled first and then I die cut. I didn't quite get the result that I was looking for. So this is the way that I found was the best way to get great results from the stencil and die combo. So the first thing that I did was I took this piece of white cardstock. This is Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I die cut 2 of the mittens out of it. So I ran just the plain white piece of paper through my die cutting machine with both of the mittens and cut them out. Then, instead of using the stencil just directly on the piece that's the mitten, I found it was better to pop the mittens back into this white piece of cardstock that's a template, just with some washi tape. So I just grabbed some washi tape, popped that on the back so that these mittens would stay put. Then I put the stencils over top. And I found this worked better because when I put the stencil over top, I could go right edge to edge of the mittens with this is the Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide on the top of the mitten here. And then when I took the stencil off, I could just go right around the edge of the mitten. Because if you don't do that, you get a white border, a little small white border around your die cut. And in this project, I didn't want that. I wanted the ink to go right to the edges of these mittens. So I found that process worked really well. So I first used the mitten stencil, then flipped it over to do the other mitten. And then I used this stencil here for the bottom part of the mitten, which I used pumice stone first from the Distress Oxide line. And again, I used the same one here. And then I used the stripes right here in Candied Apple Distress Oxide. And I didn't bother flipping it over for these 2 bottom pieces of the mittens. I just left it exactly the same. So again, the reason I found this worked really well for me is because I could ink right to the very edges of the mittens. And I did exactly the same thing for the string. So I die cut it a couple times out of Bristol Smooth, then inked it right up. I actually just took my blender brush and just inked right up over top, and then I could pop the string out when I'm ready to use it. So I'm now ready to use the string, so I'm going to pop the string out there, and I'll save that extra one for later. And I'm going to take the mittens out of the template. I'm actually going to save this template in my little storage pocket for next time that I use this die set. So if you do a template like this, just keep it in where you store your supplies, and then it's ready for you to use for next time. This washi tape isn't too tacky, so I'm just going to leave it there and I'll pop it in so I can use it next time. Okay, so let's start putting this card together. So we've got this great embossed panel from Tim Holtz with that cobblestone pattern. Then we've got our party die cut. What we have here is a reason to, as well as our string and our mittens. So I've played around with this quite a bit to think about what is the design going to look like, because there's a lot going on and I want a few things to be able to be seen. I want the mittens to be seen, part of the string, the sentiments. So this one did take a little bit of planning to think about. So what we're going to go for is to have the mittens offset just a little bit up at the top. We'll have the string coming towards the bottom, with the party die cut a little bit over top. And what we have here is a reason to tucked in just underneath that piece. So that's sort of the layout that we're going for. So I'm going to get started with gluing down first the string for the mittens. So I'm using Lawn Fawn liquid glue to adhere this to our card panel. For dainty things like this, I like the liquid glue. The other good option is to adhere a piece of sticker paper, so Pink and Maine, Stick It, anything, those two companies for sure have adhesive sheets, and you can put those on the back of your paper, and then when you're finished with your die cuts, they turn them into stickers. So that's also a good option. So I've just got that mitten string adhered down, and now I'm going to go ahead and start to pop down the mittens. One thing I think would be cool to do with these mittens is to run just the top part of the mitten through your die cutting machine with a pierced cutting plate or an embossing folder, so you could get a pattern just on that part of the mitten. I think that would be really fun. So that's something for another winter project. I've got a few people in my life that have winter birthdays, so this is what I am planning to do with this card. But like I said, if you've got people who are, participating in winter activities, skiing, skating, hockey, anything like that, where they've, now have a cause for celebration, this is a great type of card to send. Just gonna offset the mittens a little bit. Press that down. Now I'm going to put the party die cut on first, and then we'll come in with the final sentiment. I'm going to pop up what we have here is a reason to. At least I think I am. We'll see. Let's see how this starts to all come together. Just going to tilt this a little bit so I can make sure that's pretty straight. That looks great. And then we have this little sentiment, and I think I'm going to be able to tuck that just under the party as well as the mitten string right here. So I'm actually not going to pop that up then. I'm going to leave it and adhere it directly to the card. So I'm just going to tuck this right under that little loop in the mitten string, and I'm going to turn my card so that I can see where I'm getting the rest of the sentiment. Make sure this is straight. That looks good. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So the last thing we're going to do is adhere this to our card front. So I've got a piece of the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in the 110 pound. This is an A2 size portrait card. So we've got 4¼ inches across and 5½ inches tall. And our final panel here is just going to leave us a nice white margin because it is 4 inches across by 5¼ tall. So that just gives us some nice white margin space. I am going to grab my foam tape, and I didn't have that quite handy, so just give me a second here. Get some strips of foam tape on the back. I like using foam tape on embossing folders like this because it really helps to make sure you're going to get a nice flat panel when you're mailing your card, versus using tape runner or even liquid glue is just going to get in all the crevices, and it might not give you as flat of a card front as you want. You might get a little bit of warping. So I'm going to use 4 strips of foam tape here. There we go. Pop off the release paper. And we'll put a little bit of the Lawn Fawn liquid glue on the back of this release paper just so that we give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room and we can jiggle this card front around if we need to. That just helps us make sure we're getting things nice and straight. I'm gonna bring in my secret weapon ruler here, and we're gonna line our card base 1/8 of an inch from the left-hand side. So you can see I'm 1/8 of an inch there, and I know I wanna go 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, or sorry, from the top and from the bottom. So let's flip this over. Make sure our card front is right side up. And I get that tucked right next to that 1/8 of an inch mark. Pop the ruler out of the way and we can press down with confidence. So there you go. A lot going on this card with the 3D embossing folder, the die cutting, stenciling, sentiment stamping. So I didn't want to go through absolutely everything on camera, but I hope this gives you some ideas of how to use different sets in your collection to celebrate things that you might not think of normally celebrating. So something wintry with this great mitten set from Photoplay, just adding it onto that 3D embossed background that adds a little bit of interest, and then pairing it up with that Say It With Stamps set from Photoplay with the sentiment and die cuts, to always be looking for a reason to party. So I know we can't party like we used to right now, but we can still do things virtually, and hopefully brighter days ahead for some partying. So I hope you guys are all doing well. If you have a moment, please subscribe to the Two Scrapbook Friends YouTube channel. We'd love to have you as subscribers. Give this video a thumbs up. Take care. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.